War Chest is a 2 to 4 player game where you either do 2 teams of 2 or you just do 1v1. And in that game, you try and capture control points. And there's a few things that you can do, which we're going to go over on how that's going to go now. And we're also going to end the video off with a tier list of units, just for a bit of fun. You don't need to watch that part if you don't want to, or maybe you just want to skip to that part. So let's get stuck into it anyway. Okay, so War Chest is pretty straightforward. The goal of the game is to seize these points on your on the board using your tokens. So you'll either be the Ravens or the Lions, and yeah, basically your goal is to just seize all these. But how do you achieve that goal? Well, you achieve it with these units over here. So these units are what you get for your army. And the way you decide this is you take all the coins, you take one of each coin, you put it in a bag, give the bag a shake, and then each person draws 4, and then they become the draft pool. So the draft pool is decided by first deciding who has initiative, which you have a coin that has a raven and a lion on one side. You flip it, whichever side that comes up, they have initiative, they get the first pick. Then the next player picks 2, then the initiative player picks 2, and then 2, and then the initiative player gets the last one. And then you have 4 each. So what we're going to do is we're going to then just randomly assign 4 to each player, because it really doesn't matter for the sort of tutorial part of this video. We will talk about the sort of units when I get to the tier list portion. So that should be fun. Oop. And then there we go. Okay, so great. So here we go. So how do we make how do we play? How do we get to the thing? So first we have to make our initial pool. So this is our sort of pool of units here in this bag, and then these are our stockpile of units which we need to sort of draft in. So first we put our coin for our faction in. Well, I'll explain what the faction coin does when we get to it. And then we put 2 of each coin in. We won't bother doing this for the opponent because I'll sort of just describe it as it goes through. Alright, and then we give the bag a quick shuffle. And I only drew 2. Sorry. There we go. So now we've got 3. So basically War Chest is divided into rounds, and each round each player gets 3 turns, so they get to play one of their coins. They get to play all 3 of their coins backwards and forwards. So for example, let's say I take this berserker coin, I put it here, and we'll say he drew a mercenary, so he puts it here, and then I would be able to have my turn next. We'll say I'll put the archer in, we'll say he puts his crossbowman down, and then I've got this martial coin. Now what can I do with this martial coin? Well, I can't play any more face-up actions because they don't match the coins on the field. So I can do a face-down action instead, but we'll get to that. So what are the face-up actions I can do? Well, let's just say I have this berserker coin in my hand. We'll pretend that the archer coin is not there. So I could play this berserker coin, and then the berserker could do a few things. He can move 1 space, for example. Some units, like the light cav, can move more than 1 space. He could attack a unit, so say he's next to the mercenary up here, he could attack that mercenary. Or if he was on this point, he could capture it, and it would go like that. Now, that being said, so the berserker coin comes out of my hand and goes face up here, so my opponent knows I've used my berserker. Now, the other thing you can also do as a face-up action is you can bolster, which is just place a coin on top of another coin. Why would you want to do that? Well, when your coin gets attacked and removed, if you have extra units from bolstering, the coin stays there and you can still use it. Okay, so the other thing you can do with a face-up coin action is you can use a tactic of a card. So the Marshal's tactics, for example, is that choose a friendly unit within 2 spaces, and the chosen unit attacks Fable. And the way you'd play that is you would have the Marshal, he'd use his special ability, and then you put the coin face up. So that's the last face-up ability. So, yeah, they're the actions we've got to look at. Now, the other thing is, if your unit does get attacked, and this is important, if your unit does get attacked and a coin is removed for any reason, even if it's their last coin on the field, it doesn't go in your discard pile. No, 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 no. When a guy dies, he goes back into the box. He doesn't go back down here. He's out. He's done. He's a dead man at that point. So you have a finite amount of coins, which is shown on this card. For example, this Berserker has 5 Berserkers. So you have 5 coins to play with. And remember, you always need at least sort of 2 of them to get anything done. Now, I've got this Marshal coin here. So what's the problem now? Well, I can't place him down because it needs to be on one of my controlled points. I can't just place him on the field. So I can do a face down action. So I flip the coin, I put it here. Now, my opponent doesn't know what coin I flip face down, so that's an advantage already. Could I have played a Berserker coin? Who knows? Maybe. So once that happens, we can then do we've got 3 actions we can do face down. First one is steal initiative, which I can't do because in this scenario I have initiative. Also, initiative may only be stolen once per round. So if my opponent steals initiative, which let's just say he does, for example, then he becomes the initiative player, and I can't steal initiative back until the beginning of next round, or sometime during next round. If you already have initiative, you can't steal initiative. You're stuck with initiative. The other thing you can do with a face down coin is just pass your turn. You're not doing anything. I just pass, face down coin. Done. Not a problem. But the major thing you can do from a face down coin is you can get one of your guys from the stockpile. So we'll say we want a Berserker, and then we put it in the discard. Now that's the important thing. We don't shuffle our discard until we have no coins left in our bag. So we'll draw another 3. I'm really actually just looking for one particular coin, but for example, I can move the Berserker. And then I can move, I can place the Light Cav down, and then I've got another Marshal coin, which I can then, say, steal initiative back from my opponent, for example. Alright, so we're definitely going to get it this time, based on process of elimination. So, the Faction coin. So the Faction coin can only be used for face down stuff. There are some units in other expansion packs that can do stuff with a face up coin, but for the most part, it is a face down coin, and you can obviously steal initiative, pass, or draft a new guy. Then obviously once we've all played our, our coins, and we'll say I grab another Berserker, then I can grab all these. Okay, thank you. Yep, and then I can grab all these, put them back in the bag, and shuffle. And then we continue until there is a winner. And as I said, the other thing you can do with a face-up action is, of course, capture a point. Which I already said that. Yeah. So once you've captured enough points that you have no more coins in your stockpile here, you win. That's it. Now the big thing is to remember is that, let's just say the opponent's mercenary comes to here. We'll say there's one less. So because otherwise that would be a win. If he comes here and he captures, he does not turn this back into a neutral space. He takes it. So the winds of victory can change very suddenly if you, say, lose a couple of points, because let's just say you lose this one as well. Suddenly he's got 4 and you're down to 3. So, this game can change very fast. So before we get into the tier list, I'm just going to put a couple of tips down that I think is good. Step 1 is learning how to draft. That's a big one. Learning which units are good and which aren't as good, because I wouldn't say there's any bad units per se in this game. But learning which units are good and which aren't that great, that's a big thing. So knowing that, say, you want Light Cav and Berserkers out of the draft pool, which one do you take first? If you're an initiative player, probably Berserkers, I'd probably say. Then more than likely Light Cav and Archers are probably going, and you work your way down until you get a reasonable army. You'll probably always be left with one unit, but try and pick good ones, basically. And you only really learn that from playing, or if someone tells you which units are good. And even then, if it's a good unit, you might not gel with that good unit. Alright, so number 2, bolstering. Yeah, bolstering is important, not just for the Berserker, who gets a lot of benefits from bolstering, but also from if you want to move into enemy territory, sometimes that can be really dangerous. But having a bolstered unit gives you that sort of wiggle room to move up, and then they can go, well, I'm going to hit the unit and hope he can't hit me back, or am I going to bolster my own unit and play defensively? It does actually, weirdly enough, put your opponent on the back foot, but of course you've got to have enough coins to actually follow through on that threat. For example, if you bolster a swordsman and you've only got the 2 starting coin swordsman, no one's going to take that threat overly seriously, because they're like, well, he can't even move now, he can't even attack, he can't do anything. So yeah, keeping in mind that, what your units can do and how they perform, and the number of coins that you and your opponent both have, sort of coin counting is a good way to go, well, I can make this move because I have initiative next turn, and I'm going to definitely draw a light cav coin, for example. And so that may end up putting you in a really good position, instead of going, oh, I have no clue what coins I'm going to draw next, and then trying to muddle your way through. So it's good to know that what sort of percentage of chance you've got of drawing another coin. And then finally, I think the big thing is, remember that the goal of the game is to capture these points, not destroy your opponent. You can technically destroy your opponent, but it's pretty rare. Your goal is to get these points. So remember that sometimes capturing a point and sacrificing a unit is a better position than destroying an enemy unit may be. So remember to keep that in mind, and that's about it. So now,
so that's War Chest. I think that's pretty much it on it. I really enjoy War Chest. I think it's a lot of fun. It's one of those easy to learn, hard to master games, and I think you could play it for ages. And there are also multiple expansions released by the company, which look really cool. I haven't played much of them, so can't really review them. And in the online community, there's even unofficial third-party expansion. So I think that's really cool. Obviously, the game's got a lot of love. I enjoy playing it. I get my ass kicked a fair bit in it, but that's part of the fun of the game. You learn from loss. And that's all. So if you are leaving me here on this video, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it, and I'll catch you on the next one. Otherwise, let's get into the tier list.
Okay, guys. So, here's our tier list. Here's how we're going with it. So, we're just going to start. So, this is just the base game once again. So, I'm based on the base game. And we're just going to go in the order that they're in, I think. I think that's the best way to sort of do it. Okay, so Archer. So Archer's ability is pretty straightforward. It cannot attack normally. So it can move, and it can use its special tactic to shoot 2 spaces. And it can shoot it in kind of like an L shape as well. And it can also shoot over other units. So just because you're adjacent to it doesn't necessarily mean you're safe. And also you can stick a unit to protect it, and it can shoot over the top of it, which is quite nice. The Archer's strong. It's, I think the only downside of it is it's only got 4 of them instead of 5. But it can really put the hurt on stuff, and it can really scare and ward people off from things. So, the Archer's definitely an A. I don't think it's an S tier unit. It is a good unit, but its downside is, of course, it's only got 4. And if you do actually manage to get within its range, it can't attack people next to it, even with the Marshal's ability. It is unable to attack full stop. So, it's good, but it's not S tier caliber. Speaking of S tier caliber, the Berserker. Yeah, he's S tier, without a doubt. Absolute S tier Chad on this one. The Berserker special ability is that you can, when it's bolstered, you can spend those coins, and they go back in your discard when you spend them, and you can use them to do additional actions. So you play a coin, you move the Berserker, and then say it's got a stack of 4 coins, you go 1, move it again, 2, attack someone, 3, and it's back to normal. But that's a lot of zone it can cover. And the thing is, you can just keep bolstering, and it can also hit units that require bolstering to actually be able to be damaged. So it's very good at defense, it's very good at attack. It's very good at seizing ground because it can just like, pile on pile on stuff very, very easily. So yeah, Berserker, definitely an S tier unit without a doubt. Alright, crossbow. What are we doing on the crossbow? Well, crossbow is basically an offshoot of archer. So what it does is it can attack up to 2 spaces away in a straight line, but only a straight line. Units cannot be in between it, so you can't have any units in between it. That includes your own, but say that you've got a knight and an archer and you want to shoot the archer, well, you have to go through the knight first. The bonus he has, though, is that he can attack in close combat, so he can still be a dangerous little guy in close combat, but he's not quite as archery as the archer. That being said, he is also an A tier unit. Anything that controls a portion of the board, even in a straight line, is a dangerous thing to have to deal with. So that's quite good. Cav. Alright, so Cav's special ability is pretty straightforward. When it moves, it can attack afterwards. Yeah, this is a good unit. It's definitely an A tier. You don't want to try and push into the Cav unless you've got a solution for it, because the Cav is probably going to win. The only downside to it, of course, is that it is a 4. So, but it's a strong 4. So, yeah, I have no problem with the Cav. It's a good, solid unit. It has no major issues. Ensign. So the Ensign's special ability is that it picks a unit within 2, and that unit may move 2 spaces, but has to stay within 2 of the Ensign. So if it's right on the edge of the 2, it can sort of move around. If it's next to the Ensign, it can go like 1 and then sort of like 2. This unit's fantastic. I mean, it's an S tier for sure. Yeah, like the Ensign's really strong, because say you move next to someone's Cav, someone's archers, and then they go Ensign, pull him back, and nail you. The other unit that benefits from this is the Lancer. But pretty much almost anyone benefits from this, because if you position your Ensign correctly enough, you can pull a unit that is quite slow all the way around to the front line. I'd say its best synergy is with Royal Guard, because of Royal Guard's special ability, which we will get into. But its ability to just be able to pull the Royal Guard around. And then if you can combine that with Marshall, the Royal Guard is very hard to deal with at that point. So that's it. Hey, so the Footman. The Footman's special ability is that you can play 2 of them on the board instead of just 1. Normally you can only have 1 of each token. Footman, you have 2. Whenever you play a Footman token, you can move both of them. You can act with both Footmen. So that sounds pretty good. So obviously it's very much in the C tier. Yeah, I mean, sorry. Footman. So its main ability is that you can play 2 of them. But the problem is that means you have to draft an additional coin at the start of the game. You have to draft a Footman coin to get a decent go out of them. And then at the end of the day, their action is they can move at the same time. It's not as strong as you think it is. It can be used to sort of split archer fire, but it's rare when that comes into play. And also, at the same point, you have to act with both of them, I should probably mention. So if you've got a Footman in a really nice position, and the other one needs to move into a different position, well, guess what? You have to move or act with both of them. Passing is not an option. Once you play a coin, you must act with that unit. So you can't pass with one and then do the other one. So yeah, I just feel like it's... And then at the end of the day, if you're not bolstering them, they kind of just walk up and get chopped into confetti. So they can't even be too aggressive. They're not too bad for base defense, like defending your initial bases. But then, once again, if you're defending your initial bases, you better hope you've captured other ones, because if a unit dies and you need to get it back, they're blocking up both bases. So, yeah, C tier for the Footman. Sorry, Footman. The Knight. So the Knight's got a pretty straightforward special ability. It can only be attacked by a bolstered unit. So, otherwise, it cannot be damaged. Obviously, this guy's just a big old pain. Like, you just place him there, and they have to bolster units, which means less coins, which is a problem. But as I've told you, bolstering is actually not that bad of a strategy. But you don't want to necessarily bolster everything, and it works on all of the guys. So if it's an archer and a knight's approaching him, you got to bolster the archer to be able to take the knight out even at range. So, yeah, he can be a nasty guy. He's definitely A tier. I don't think he's S tier because there are certain units, like the Berserker just flat counters this guy. The Pikeman counters the knight as well. So it's very hard to sort of get around these two. And it's not too difficult on other units to bolster them either. So it's an annoyance, but it's not a catastrophic annoyance either. So that's pretty much it for that. We've got the Light Cav. The Light Cav's got a straightforward ability. It moves twice. S tier. It literally moves double the distance of everything else. It can be used to very quickly seize points. And it can also be used to counter the archers, because if the archers are being a bit annoying, you just duck in with the Light Cav, because it can be 3 space away, and then it's right in the archer's face, and the archer just has to go, oh boy, I've got to move away now. And even at that point, if a Light Cav can pressure an archer to move out of position, that archer's not as good anymore. So yeah, the Light Cav's just really good. It can very quickly overwhelm even the most veteran of players. Suddenly it's like, oh crap, they got 3 points already, so 5 total, and I haven't got any formulation against them. So yeah, Light Cav can be really good. Alright, the Lancer. The Lancer's thing is he can't attack adjacently, for one thing, but he can move 1 or 2 spaces and then attack. It's actually situationally really good. It can counter archers and crossbowmen and even knights. It can catch a lot of dudes off guard. I have actually won a game by just getting a Lancer to basically charge up, hit a unit that was on their starting one, and then play another Lancer token and move the Lancer directly onto that spot before they could re-seize it. So yeah, situationally, really quite a powerful unit, but that's the rub. Situationally, if you can use the Light Cav, for example, to hold the Lancer down, he really can't do much. And without something like an Ensign, any unit that just holds him down it's just going to be bad news for him. So he's a B tier. He's a low B tier. He's pretty close to C, but his speed is what saves him from C tier. The Mercenary. So the Mercenary is an interesting unit because it's simultaneously very strong and very weak. So what's the Mercenary special ability? When you draft one of their coins, so put it in your discard pile, they may make an action. So, move, attack, seize, whatever. Obviously they can't bolster because you don't have the coin. But yeah, so this is a really strong ability. So why did I say that they're simultaneously bad as well? Well, once you get all 3 of the coins in the stockpile into your hand, basically they just take up space. The Mercenary has no other special abilities, so in this case, he's simultaneously a C tier and an S tier, because he can be extremely strong in the early game, because you can't really approach him while there's still coins in the pool, because you go, okay, I approach the Mercenary, and the guy goes, well, I will face down, pull a Mercenary coin out of the stockpile, and bang, your guy's dead now. So he can even be dangerous if he's just sitting on a point bolstered, because if you approach, they just, bang, done. But obviously, once you've drafted all the coins, he's just a 5 coin unit with no special ability. So he's not going into S because his ability runs out eventually, but he's definitely not going anywhere below A, because it is a really strong and threatening ability. The Marshal, I think I spoke about him in the review. So the Marshal's ability is that you can spend his coin, pick a unit within 2, they can attack. This is another one of those coins that's situationally very good, because he has a major weakness. If you team him up with the Lancer and the Archer, he pretty much can't help them at all, because they cannot attack. They don't get to attack, right? Not even the Marshal can force them to attack. Now, if he's teamed up with some other guys here, yeah, that's not too bad. The issue is say he's teamed up with a Light Cav, he's generally too far away to really help that guy. This guy does not need his help, the Berserker doesn't need it, but it's useful. he can generally help anyone in this sort of area and below. So for me, I think I'm going to have to give the Marshal a B because he's situationally good. I definitely am putting him above the Lancer, though. there's not much of an actual pecking order here, but I'm definitely putting him above the Lancer. Yeah, he's a B tier unit. There's really no downside to him. He's very useful if you can draft the right guys. In fact, he's very, very useful if you draft the right guys. But the problem is that you always have the issue of if you get the Archer or you get the Archer or the Lancer, and he's one less effective than he should be. And if you get him with some other units, yeah, like and even the crossbow, like you only really get the close combat attack from the crossbow. You can't use their shoot attack. It has to be a regular one. Okay, Pikeman. So the Pikeman, his ability is when he gets hit, you remove a coin from the unit that just hit him. And this is not count as an attack, so the Knight's protection does not save him. If the Knight hits him, the Knight dies as well. Yeah, this is another one of those units that's situationally really good. But obviously, you can kind of sort of also semi-ignore it. Because obviously, if you've got, it's really good against the Cav, it's really good against the Knight, it's pretty good against these two because it's just extra space that's sort of, he can take and hold an area. He's a very good defensive unit. The only downside to him really is that he doesn't really have an offensive ability, and there's only 4 of him. If he had 5 coins, I'd probably put him in A tier. Because he's only got 4 coins, he can't really effectively trade as well. And once your opponent knows that the pikeman's down to 1 coin, he's not going to attack him. He's just going to go, yeah, I'll just let him stay there. Right, so yeah, B tier, but definitely above the Lancer, but I'd say below the Marshal. The Royal Guard. So this guy is pretty strong. On paper, it doesn't look like much, but in practice, he is strong. Now, there are 2 versions of him, because it turns out this version of him is actually quite broken if you play correctly. You have to... I'm not going to go over how the broken strategy works, because even the creators of the game called it degenerate, which it is. It very much flies in the face of how this game, I think, is intended to be played. So I'm not going to talk about the strategy. If you want to look it up, go nuts. That's your business, but I'm not going to talk about it. We're going to talk about sort of how I found him. So his special ability is that when he gets hit, instead of removing him from the board, you can take a token from the stockpile and remove that instead. This obviously makes him very, very hard to dislodge because he basically has 4 health. As in, he's got 1 health on the field and he's got 3 in the stockpile. Obviously, though, that means you don't want to draft any of him, right? Because he's at best when he's got low action. So this is why the Ensign and the Marshal teamed up with the Royal Guard is very strong, because the Ensign can pull the Royal Guard into the positions he needs to be in, and the Marshal can then attack with the Royal Guard. So this just, as a team, it's just very strong. And as I said, he's one of the hardest ones to counteract, so he's actually going in S tier. I think, because I'm talking without the degenerate strategy. With the degenerate strategy, he's top. He's the top of the tier list. He's the best unit in the game. I'd say he's second best without using that strategy, so bang. Scout. So Scout is pretty cool. You can deploy him next to any allied unit. So in other words, say you've got your light cav and it's right up the back of the enemy area, you can place the Scout next to him. This makes these two quite a nasty team to have to deal with, because the light cav is annoying on its own, then suddenly he's dropping Scouts as well. So that's it. That's all he's got. He just attacks and all that normally. So he's situationally very good, because if you have to play him if you draw 2 Scout tokens first turn, you're going to be behind. If you draw a Scout token when you don't want to actually play the Scout, you're behind. And because of that reason, he's B tier. But I'd probably say he's he's equal with the Marshal in usefulness in the B tier. So that's sort of where I'd put him. I think he's a good unit. I just think that he's situationally good. And if you can't get that situation, he's basically a unit with no ability. So that can be a bit of an annoyance, honestly. We have the Swordsman. So the Swordsman is the opposite of the Cav. Whenever he attacks, he gets to move afterwards. This sounds like it's really good, and it can be, because you can have him move into position. Then you can get the Marshal to force him to attack. And then if it's on an enemy base, you can then move onto that base, and you've pretty much, cut that off from being able to produce units. So he sounds like he'd be really good. Yeah, sorry, bro. He is probably better than the Footman. I'll give him that much. I think he is slightly better than the Footman. Yeah, the issue is that you still have to move him into dangerous situations, and there are so many other situations that these units can be in, and you really don't want to sacrifice that point for the Swordsman. He can come in clutch. I have seen him. I've actually won a game thanks to him before, but overall, just he just doesn't perform well when under pressure. If he's left alone, he can do some stuff. But you pretty much have to bolster him. You do get 5 of him, so that's something at least. But you have to bolster him, and then you have to move him into position. And you have to hope he doesn't get absolutely murked. And then hopefully he can then hit someone and move on to a point. It's just way better to move and attack than it is to attack then move. And then we have the final one, the War Priest. So the War Priest special ability is whenever he attacks or seizes a point, you draw another coin from your bag, and you take that action immediately. Now, obviously, I should probably say, if there's no coins in your bag and you need to draw, you then would shuffle the coins back in and draw. So you don't need to worry about missing out on that. So that sounds really good. What's the problem with him? Well, yeah, see, that's the rub, isn't it? What's the problem with him? Because it seems all upside. But no, the issue is that you can draw coins that you don't want or need. For example, say you've got a point... you got your War Priest, what you want to draw is something like a Light Cav or an Archer, based on the position you're in. You reach into your bag and you draw a Swordsman, or you draw a Pikeman, or whatever your 4th unit is, or you draw another Warrior Priest, depending on how many you've got in your bag, or worst case scenario, you draw your faction coin, and you can basically steal initiative or draft someone. Yeah, he's inconsistent. You could reach in the bag and draw the Light Cav or the Archer and win the game off that, right? And at that point, you're like, yes, War Priest, woo! But at the end of the day, you could also draw your faction coin and lose the game. So that's why he's situationally good. I'd probably put him... I'd probably put him mid-tier of those particular ones. That's the tier list. I'm gonna quickly just sort of do a bit of shuffling. I'm actually pretty happy with that. That one up there. Archer Knight. I actually think I'd probably put the Mercenary there, like that. I think for that tier. I'm happy with this tier, and I'm happy with this tier. So that's it. That's our tier list. If you have any comments, or you disagree, or you agree, drop a comment. But that's War Chest on a whole. So if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, and I'll catch you on the next one. See yous!